And welcome back to Bengal Bites, a podcast about the Cincinnati Bengals from one fan's real, honest perspective. I'm your host, Derek. This is episode 62. This is the Week 7 preview episode for the Battle of Ohio Part 1 for 2024 as our Cincinnati Bengals head up north to take on the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be the first matchup between these two teams' second AFC North game for the Bengals this year. And the records for these two teams are not what most people had anticipated coming into the season. At 1-5, the Browns are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and Bengals not doing a whole lot better at 2-4, but things are certainly looking up for the Bengals. And hopefully in this game, the Bengals are able to continue on that upward trajectory. In this episode, we're going to break down some of the things we're going to be looking for in this game, some of the things we're expecting to see, any of the interesting storylines that are going to be good to watch throughout this game. But this episode is going to be coming out right before game time, just a few hours before the game kicks off. So this is going to be a real game day preview episode. So let's make it quick, get this information out to you. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, give me a comment, all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, email me at bengalbitespodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions, comments, criticisms, or things that can make the show better. But let's get into this game. So, as usual, one of the biggest storylines to watch is the injury report. A lot of the key players can be playing good, making a huge impact for their team, and then all of a sudden, one or two guys goes down, and you got a completely different team on the field, and the results will be totally different. So we can't just look at it as based on the records, but going into this, Bengals are relatively healthy compared to most NFL teams at this point in the season. Week 7, they still got most of their key players and not too many players on injured reserve. Obviously, Trent Brown and Dax Hill, the tackle and the cornerback. One player on each side of the ball. But otherwise, Bengals are overall healthy, knock on wood. On the other side, Browns are extremely injured. If you look at the injury reports between the two teams for this week, Bengals have 4 players. Browns have almost 15 or 16. I can't count. I'm not going to count right now. But Browns have like 4 times as many players listed on their injury report. And nobody is even really questionable for the Bengals. DJ Ivey is activated off injured reserve. He tore his ACL covering punt return last year in December. He's making his way back from that knee injury. He was a full participant in practice this week. He's listed as questionable for the game, but they activated him on Saturday, so it looks like he's going to play. And other than that, nobody from the Bengals was even questionable. So the Bengals are very healthy. On the other side, the Browns, they're getting some players back from injury as well, most notably Nick Chubb, their star running back. Last season, he got injured in week 2 with a horrible hit from Minka Fitzpatrick coming in, helmet right to his knee, buckled, and he tore his ACL, MCL, PCL, all the ligaments you could tear in the knee. But he is back 1 year later, just a little bit over 1 year. He's going to be making his first start, it looks like, because the Browns' starting running back up until this point, Jerome Ford, is going to be out with a hamstring injury. He did not practice at all, and he's listed as out officially. So it's looking like Nick Chubb is going to make his return right at a perfect time when the Browns' starting running back is going to be out. They've also got Dante Foreman on the roster, but Nyheim Hines is also questionable. He had a knee injury last offseason where somebody ran into him with a jet ski at like a boat dock. And I think he ended up suing that person. But he wasn't even a football injury. It was getting hit by a jet ski. Terrible way to go. But he may come back for the Browns. I don't think he's played for them at all because it was before the season even started that he got injured last year. I don't know if he's even played in a game for the Browns at all. So a couple running backs for the Browns going to come back. And then also safety Juan Thornhill is supposed to be coming back off injured reserve for the Browns. They've also got a number of guys who are on the injury report. Ronnie Hickman, starting safety, is going to be out for the Browns. A couple other guys are going to be questionable. Jordan Hicks, Ethan Pochix, or Posis. I don't know how you say this guy's name, obviously. And so a lot of guys on the offensive line for the Browns injured. We saw their safety go out. He's on injured reserve. It looked like he broke his ankle. Nick Harris for the Browns. That was a tough injury to watch, getting carted off, guys in tears. But anyway, the point is, that's a long way of saying the Browns are super banged up. Everything is going in the Bengals' favor, not only on the injury front, but also the Browns traded away one of their best players. Amari Cooper, their number one wide receiver, Browns traded him to the Bills for some draft picks. So it's looking like the Browns may be in sell mode, just try to get as many assets as they can get before they go into the draft for next year. If it's looking like this season is going to be untenable in terms of making it to the playoffs and winning a Super Bowl. And the other thing that's working in the Bengals' favor is the fact that Deshaun Watson, their quarterback, has been probably the worst quarterback in the NFL. Or not even probably, definitely the worst quarterback in the NFL. And on the contrary, Bengals have Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So, although quarterback play doesn't dictate everything, we saw in the Giants game last week where the difference between a good quarterback and a bad quarterback can make the difference in the game. The reason the Bengals won was mostly because of Joe Burrow being a lot better than Daniel Jones. And hopefully the same result comes true in this game against the Browns. But the thing, as a Bengals fan, we all know that recently the Browns have had the Bengals number, and especially with Zac Taylor and Joe Burrow in his career, they have not had a lot of success against the Browns, especially in Cleveland. Some of the worst games of Joe Burrow's career have come against Myles Garrett and the rest of this Browns defense. I'm sure he and a lot of Bengals fans are having nightmares. So that's why, even though going into this game, the Bengals are heavily favored, which is unusual being the road team in the NFL. Normally they give the home team at least 3 points in their benefit. So the fact that the Bengals are, I think at this point, they're about 5.5 point favorites to win in Cleveland speaks to how poorly the Browns season has gone so far. But in Cleveland, Joe Burrow is at least 0-3, but he's in his fifth season. This is fifth year for Joe Burrow, but he, I guess, didn't play. We remember the first game of the season last year in Cleveland. It rained. They weren't prepared for the rain. They couldn't handle the rain, and they lost. And that was also when Joe Burrow still had that nagging calf injury that was slowing him down. So the last time the Browns saw Joe Burrow, it was an ugly game for the Bengals, and we don't need another repeat of that. But Zac Taylor hasn't really been great in Cleveland either. He has not won a game in Cleveland. He's 0-5 in Cleveland against the Browns. So Joe Burrow is overall 1-5 against the Browns. He got one win. Now, it couldn't have been his rookie year because he was hurt by then. But I guess there was one of them. I can't remember. But Myles Garrett and the rest of the Browns have just dominated Joe Burrow for the most of his career. But the other thing is, because of the bad offensive play, Browns are one of the least effective offenses in the NFL. They rank 30th in scoring and 32nd in yards. So the Browns are not able to move the ball. I think there was some crazy statistic about how the Browns hadn't scored a touchdown in some, or one touchdown in the last 30 drives, and then hadn't converted a third down in 20 or 25 drives or something like that. Just like crazy inefficiency by the Browns offense. And everybody's all up in arms because Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, has continued to go up in front of the press conferences. The reporters are asking the questions about, hey, what's up with this quarterback who's playing terrible? Why don't you bench him and put in Jameis Winston, who is a former number 1 overall pick? Yeah, he's getting a little bit up there in age, but if the current quarterback is the worst quarterback in the league, what's the harm in trying something else? Yeah, they're 1-5. People are just asking the question. But the head coach is steadfast in saying that Deshaun Watson, the current quarterback, gives them the best chance to win, and they believe in him, and everybody else needs to do a better job to step up and, help out the team or whatever. Obviously, a lot of people are speculating. They even put the question right to the coach, is the owner forcing you to play Deshaun Watson? And he said, no, this decision is mine. Obviously, he's not going to say that the owner told him what to do, but the owner is the one making most of these decisions ultimately. So the coach can say whatever he wants. We all know who's calling the shots here. So the owner wants to see Deshaun Watson because his contract is fully guaranteed, $240 million. Doesn't matter what he does or how he plays, he's getting all that money. And from the owner's perspective, you want to get your money's worth, I guess. So he's going to have to figure it out. Like, go out there, and I guess you've got to, as the owner, you assume that the guy's going to figure out how to play and remember it eventually. But I don't know. From a Bengals perspective, I don't care, because as long as the Browns keep losing, continue to be bad, and especially lose to the Bengals, then that's good for us. So they can continue to be in shambles for all I care. This is good times for the Bengals, and hopefully a little bit of a revenge game for Joe Burrow, Zac Taylor, and the rest of this Bengals team. But just speaking, some of the other interesting statistics, Deshaun Watson has been sacked the most amount of times of a quarterback, 31 times so far this year. Got sacked a bunch of times, like 8 times in the game against the Giants. Eagles sacked him a bunch of times. So hopefully that is a good sign, because the Bengals are one of the least effective defenses at sacking the quarterback. Outside of Trey Hendrickson, I don't think anybody has more than 1 sack on the entire team. So hopefully Bengals defense is able to get some pressure. Like I said, the Browns offensive line is kind of a little bit injured. I think although they're going to get left tackle Jack Conklin back, he was also out since week 1 of last season, similar to Nick Chubb. He's coming back from injured reserve with a knee injury. So they're going to get him back at left tackle. They got Jedrick Wills at right tackle. So the outside of the Browns offensive line is probably going to be pretty good, but their interior, center, and their 2 guards, that's not necessarily the strength of the Bengals defense, but we did see Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, some of those guys start to step up. So hopefully they continue to make strides, and as they get experience, start to see some of those flashes turn into big plays. I know McKinley Jackson maybe got a little bit excited last week. He was in the backfield. He was there, but he completely ran right by the ball carrier, got confused. And so if he can just, kind of play a little bit more under control, make a big play, that'll help out the Bengals defense. Offensively, obviously, Browns have Myles Garrett. Remember last year, Myles Garrett, he was lining up all over the place against the Bengals offensive line. There was that one play where he was lined up directly over the center, Ted Karras for the Bengals, and Myles Garrett was doing that basketball crossover move right in front of Ted Karras, not kind of saying you don't know which way I'm going to go, and then right at the snap, he kind of did a crossover move, juked one way, went right around Ted Karras, got the sack. Hopefully we don't see any repeats of that play, but it'll be interesting to see which side of the line. The Browns also have Zadarius Smith, another guy who at one point was the NFL sack leader a few seasons ago. He led the NFL in sacks. But Browns, they've got a pretty strong defensive front, some athletic linebackers, and really good man coverage backs. In the defensive backfield, they've got Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson, some of the top coverage guys in the NFL. So that'll be a good matchup. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Yosivach against the Browns secondary. See if Joe Burrow is able to have more success. Hopefully, the Browns have been pretty aggressive in jumping routes, trying to read Joe Burrow's where he's going to throw the ball and I'm just thinking about that 99-yard pick six Denzel Ward had against the Bengals in Cincinnati. So plays like that, I'm just, I can't get too optimistic. I'm a fan. So it's like I said, last week everything was set up for a Bengals win against the Giants, and I wanted to be optimistic, but I just couldn't let myself get too optimistic. This is a similar situation where the Bengals are actually favored by more than they were against the Giants. 5.5-point favorites at Cleveland. Everything's setting up, looking like it should be a Bengals win for sure, but at the same time, can never count the Browns out. But then I say that, but then if you go and look, because normally I don't watch the Browns game. It's normally Browns or the Bengals. If they're playing at the same time, I'm going to watch the Bengals, not the Browns. So I don't usually watch the Browns games, but to get ready for this game, I had to go back and watch a little bit of tape. And as soon as you turn on the tape, it just Deshaun Watson looks horrible. So long as Deshaun Watson continues to play the way he has been playing in previous games this season, this should be a for sure win for the Bengals. They should get some sacks, get some interceptions. I don't know. They'll be able to score some points against this defense, but Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator for the Browns, I'm sure he's going to be, scheming something up, not unlike the Bengals' own defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. I'm sure the Browns are going to have some kind of a plan cooked up for this Bengals team, but I feel like with the amount of resources the Bengals have in their coaching staff this year, they're going to have a great game plan. I have seen some creativity, some moving Jamar Chase around. They've got Chase Brown, who is one of the top running backs in the NFL in terms of yards per carry, 5.5 yards per carry so far this year. So they've got that little added burst in the backfield. Could add a new dimension that the Bengals offense has been missing lately or in previous years with Joe Mixon, although Joe Mixon is looking good for the Texans too. But I'm feeling optimistic. It should be good, but hopefully after the game we'll be celebrating another Bengals victory. This game is going to be at 1 o'clock on CBS with Spiro Dedes, Adam Archuleta, and Aditi Kinkhabwala calling the game, which is a little bit biased because Aditi is also the Browns sideline reporter during the preseason. So she's like the Marissa Contepelli equivalent for the Browns. I think she only does it during the preseason, but she's maybe somewhat affiliated with the Browns. But anyway, she's working for CBS, but she also works for the Browns, the conflict of interest or whatever. It's like Tom Brady, calling the games, but he also is going to be a part owner for the Raiders, although it's not a similar situation at all. Aditi, I'm sure she's got journalistic integrity, and she'll play it right down the middle and call it for the Bengals too. But I'm excited for this game. Probably the only people in the country who are excited for this game are Bengals fans because nobody else cares about this game. I'm sure it's a game between two teams in the middle of the Midwest, smaller fan bases, and they're both on losing records. So on the coasts, they're not going to be paying attention to this game. But in Ohio, we're going to be super excited about this game. And I can't wait to come back and break down in the next episode. So come back and join me next time. But until next time, I'm going to leave you with a hoo-day and stay hungry for more Bengal Bites.